As you know, on Sunday night or Monday morning of every week, we post a new expository semiotics explaining why we would choose which lectionary readings. But in these readings, our dream is, and our desire is, to help you read the signs and fondle the details and spot the seminal metaphors, the condensed signs and the stories that are key for preaching to a digital culture. So strap on your seatbelt and join us as we prospect our passages for today. Welcome to the 9th of May, 2021, the 6th Sunday of Eastertide, also known in North American circles as Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day to all mothers out there who are a part of this, and to all those of you who mother and are in the mothering business, which in some ways means all of us. The lectionary passages, one is from Acts 10:44 to 48, where it's hard for us to realize today how aghast people would have been at this one little line here. The gifts of the Holy Spirit had been poured out even on the Gentiles. Even on the Gentiles. What are you talking about? Even on the Gentiles. Psalm 98, sing to the Lord a new song, for God has done marvelous things. Make a joyful noise to the Lord. Wesley translated this, sing lustily. I mean, he was trying to get the conveyance here of how we're to sing with our mind, body, soul, spirit, and with enthusiasm. And so he called it sing lustily. With the trumpet, with the lyre, with the sound of melody. And then he goes in and draws into the orchestra all of creation, the hills and the waters and the birds, and all of creation join in into the song. And then we have the last two lectionary passages are from the same author who wrote 4 books of the New Testament. We often don't think this way, but John's Gospel, and then 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John. So we're reading from 1st John, and then we have a reading from John 15. And let me just summarize the John 15 one, the Gospel John, where Jesus is over and over again, he's saying the same thing, 15, 16, 17. We only have 15, 9 to 17, but it's like he's not sure we're getting it. So he goes, a new command I give to you, and again, a new command I give you, and again, I give you a new command. So he's saying the same thing over and over again, fronting it differently, backing it differently, embellishing it differently, but it's the same thing. A new command. This is my commandment. Okay, this is the Jesus commandment, that you love one another. How? As I have loved you. And then he says something we often forget. That's why I love the Quakers for many reasons. John Wesley, the founder of my tribe, wasn't exactly enamored of them, but they have the best name for a tribe, the Society of Friends. Because Jesus said, no longer do I call you servants. I call you friends. A lot of people love that phrase, servant leadership. And they say, even though I've written books on the problematic nature of that word leadership, it really should be followership. Well, sure, I'm surely you like the servant. Well, I love Bob Greenleaf, who came up with the concept, but no, there's even problems here, because I no longer call you servants, Jesus is saying. I'm calling you now friends. We have a higher status now than servants. We are friends. So the commandment is to love. This is the Jesus commandment. Love one another, but it's as I have loved you. Love. The Jesus love is not just any kind of generic love or a loosey-goosey, feel-goody love. As I have loved you, love. And we'll get to that in just a second. And then 1 John 5, 1 to 6. And I want to read this whole section here because this is such a key reading. Again, John, in his first letter, when he was in Ephesus. Everyone who believes that Jesus is the Christ is born of God, and everyone who loves the Father loves his child as well. This is how we know that we love the children of God, by loving God and carrying out his commands. Now, we've already learned what his command is. His command is to, by Jesus' love, to love as Christ has loved us. In fact, this is the love for God, to keep his commands. And his commands are not burdensome, for everyone born of God overcomes the world. This is the victory that has overcome the world, even our faith. In other words, faith is the victory. The victory is not the conquest or the summit, reaching the summit of a mountain. The victory itself is the faith it took to climb that mountain, to take that first step towards that engagement, that battle. So this is the victory that overcomes the world, even our faith. Who is it that overcomes the world? Only the one who believes that Jesus is the Son of God. This is the one who came by water and by blood, Jesus Christ. He did not come by water only, but by water and blood. And it is the Spirit who testifies, because the Spirit is the truth. Jesus came by blood and water. Now, this water and blood and water. Crucifixion. Water and blood meant death to the Romans, because what they did when somebody was crucified to make sure they were dead is they pierced the side, and just to ensure that the person had died. But when they pierced Jesus' side, he issued what flowed out was an issuance of blood and water and blood. Again, to the Romans, death. To the Christian, to the follower of Jesus, life. Water and blood. New birth. New life. As every mother knows. Jesus is the last Adam. The first Adam's side is split, and a bride is conceived from the side. The last Adam's side is split, and a bride is conceived from that water and that blood. And what is conceived, of course, is the church, Mother Church, the new Eve. It wasn't fully born because it needed the breath, and there was this first blowing in the upper room as the disciples were sitting Shiva, and a first breath from Jesus on. He breathed on them, but then, of course, the big bellowing of Pentecost. That's what we celebrate the birthday of the church. But here, from the side of Christ, the last Adam, a new bride was conceived. And this is the church. Now let's go back to that first Adam, the mother of us all. We're celebrating Mother's Day today, and a mother of us all is Eve. Have you ever heard a Mother's Day sermon on Eve? I never have. Even any kind of sermon on Eve. But Eve wasn't her first name. Do you remember this? As Adam, or the human. We often leave out the article here, but it was the human, Adam, as the first human, which is a whole human being, was split in two, and the male and female parts became beings in and of themselves. When God presents this female part to the male part, the first words out of Adam's mouth So this is really what he named her. Wow, you know, whoa, or at last. One translated. If I were translated, I'd say bingo. You know, bingo. Now, sorry about that. That's my own personal translation here. But then you notice how Adam immediately after, you know, whoa, wow, hallelujah, at last, he becomes a poet. Bone of my bones, flesh of my flesh. And Mark Schroen is the one who helped me to see this first, by the way. And then her name is Isha, or woman, because she was taken from Ish, or man. But then, so this is the first name, woman, man. But then when they find out that Eve is going to be the mother of all life, she's going to bring children into this world, she's going to populate the world and bring children into the story, then she gets this word, this name, Eve. Because, this is Genesis 3:20, she would be the mother of all who live. And that word Eve actually sounds like the Hebrew word that means to give life. And so she's the one that is the source of life. Now there's two symbols of life. And one is water and one is blood. I mean, the very symbols of life here, we associate the side of Christ, the issuance of water and blood, and the church as baptism and Eucharist, but there's something even deeper here, because you've got the very life symbols of humanity in these two metaphors of water and blood. So let's look at water first. Water in particular symbolizes the life source and sustenance. Blood in particular symbolizes life redemption and salvation. So you have a life-giving and life-redeeming metaphor right here in water and blood. So we're going to look at water first. Water, we are natural-born swimmers. In fact, water is our native habitat. Even before we were born, what were we doing? We were swimming. We were swimming in our mother's womb. Now, water is also a powerful symbol of what we talked about last week, in this magic mandorla, this fertile crescent, I called it, because it brings together opposites. H2O, hydrogen, is a gas that burns. Oxygen is a gas that promotes burning. But you might bring the two together, and presto, you got a liquid that snuffs out, extinguishes fire. By the way, it also extinguishes thirst. All right. Hydrogen wants to burn. Oxygen wants to help anything burn, but you marry the two. And they just want to quench your thirst and clean you off. And the mystery of bringing opposites together. Water yields and it wields. It yields to its context. It might start out in the sky as just a mist, steam. On the way down, it turns to rain, liquid. And then by the time it hits you, it may be solid. That's called hail. That's called snow. So it yields. It takes the shape of its context. But at the same time it yields, what power it wields. Anybody who's ever been in a flood, anybody who's ever seen pictures of a tsunami, anybody who has ever been sucked out in a riptide knows the power that water wields. Or just say one word, Titanic. Water wields power. People call you a softie. Water's a softie. It's a liquid. Or in one form of it. You got such a soft touch. Well, the power of a soft touch created the Grand Canyon. That was all the soft touch of water. centuries creating one of the great wonders of the world. By the way, mothers, what a soft touch, yeah. Mothers yield. They're constantly fitting the context of that child, but at the same time, what power they wield. To give water is to give life. And mothers spend a lot of time, mothering time, hydrating their children, keeping them in liquid. Nothing is without water. Water is present in everything and every one. Your body is 60% water. Your brain is 73% water. So even your thoughts are fluid. Your bones. You can't get more hard-shelled than your bones, but they're 31% water. So water is omnipresent. And so too is the living water, the very liquid of life, who is Jesus the Christ. I am the living water. But from those who follow Jesus, from that living water flow fountains of living water to rehydrate the soul and to rehydrate the world. Jesus is the living water. But beware, baptized one, because like Niagara Falls or Iguazu Falls, Jesus, the living water, is more than what water I can catch from it in my little cup. And some of us think our little cups are so big. No, this is the living water, the water of life, the water that yields and wields. And part of Mother's Day is our mother church, ecclesia. Ecclesia is what rehydrates the soul. And you don't think we need soul rehydration? We are living in a culture of dehydration. And there's a lot of dehydration out there. People today are living dehydrated lives. Their bodies are losing so much water. There's not enough water to go around. And by the way, normal daily living creates the loss of 4 liters of fluid per day. And if you exercise more, you got higher temperature, you're in higher altitudes, you're sick, you got massive changes in that loss of fluid. And this is the function of both natural water and living water, the rehydration, soul rehydration. Isaiah 12, 2-3, some of you are familiar with it, but just let me remind you of it. Surely God is my salvation. I will trust and will not be afraid, for the Lord God is my strength and my might. God has become my salvation. With joy you will draw water from the wells of salvation. Now that symbol, that image of wells. Wells are a source of life. They were actually, the wells were the water coolers of the ancient world. This is where people would meet and gather and talk. But wells are also another kind of water cooler. They're the place where humans meet the divine. That's where God meets us over and over again in the scriptures. The venue of visitation from the divine was the well. The first mention of the well in the Bible is the story of Hagar in the wilderness. You're familiar with this as she was banished along with Ishmael to go out into the wilderness, but God provided for her there, and as she sought provision, there was a well in the wilderness, and she calls the well. How I love this! This is Genesis 16:14. The well of the living one who sees me. The well of the living one who sees me. We have a living God who sees us. A living God who brings us to life, not to abandon us, but to see us and to have a relationship with us, and provides for us wells. In biblical times, water was not just a resource like it is today. It wasn't a utility. You go to a hotel, you expect water, you expect electricity, you expect plumbing. Now you expect the internet too. It is now a utility. But in the ancient world, water was a symbol of God's providence, a gift of God's generosity. and a manifestation of the goodness of God for which we were thankful in our hearts. Water was such a pervasive image in the ancient world and in the formation of Christianity. The Tertullian called Christianity a Religio Aquae, a water religion. I wrote a book called Aqua Church, but I was tempted to really call it Religio Aquae, or faith's foundation is a fountain. The foundation of faith is a fountain. Now, the blood image is problematic for some people in our culture today. I wrote a book on preaching, defined it as giving blood, and I got this from Judy Garland before she went out. For every performance, performers can be very superstitious, time to break leg, but she wanted somebody to say to her, or she had to say to herself, time to give blood. Time to give blood. And that is basically, I think, what preaching is, and it is giving blood, not our blood, but royal blood, the blood from another fountain. And the saying blood is thicker than water actually means the exact opposite of what we think it meant. The original version was spoken by brothers in arms and brothers on a mission, and really meant the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. But the two most precious ingredients in life, blood and water. And in this case, from the original meaning of that saying, the blood the blood of brothers and sisters in covenant together is even thicker than the water from which we were born, the water of the womb. Blood is key to building community in the ancient world, and that's why there was so much ritual over blood. In the ancient world, a sacrificial ox, once it was led to the altar, was induced to nod. In other words, it was offered food, and it would put its head down to receive that food, and that lowering of the head was the symbol that it agreed to sacrifice its life for the betterment of those who were going to feast on its meat. And the blade that drew the blood was not deemed guilty. Well, it was deemed the guilty one, not the man who wielded it to slay there was a penalty, but the penalty was on the blade, not on the person who was slaying that animal for food. The way in which people thought of blood, when they thought of blood, they thought of living, they thought of life, and that's another reason why throughout history, I got to stop giving you so much history here, but it's so much fun. Bishops and other clergy could not use swords or axes in medieval battles because they were not supposed to draw blood. They were only supposed to give blood. They were only supposed to suffer in blood. So they were given not axes and swords. You ready? They were given clubs. So, by the way, we've been using clubs ever since, especially on each other. But that's a whole other story. The height of the blood ritual and the symbol of blood as life itself was, of course, took place on the Day of Atonement, our Yom Kippur, and was the high priest who's the only one that could speak the name of Yahweh, and the only time he could speak it is when he entered the Holy of Holies and sprinkled blood on the mercy seat. And that's when the name of God was spoken. The holy experience of the ancient world was that blood ritual, the holy experience. And when he said, I am the I am. By the way, the holy experience, the initials are THE, the. The holy experience, the I am. The holy experience of life is the experience of the I am. I am, T-H-E, the holy experience. God is the holiest experience of life. A culture looking for all sorts of experiences, we need to discover the I am. When the high priest emerges from the Holy of Holies, still alive after having presided over the sprinkling of blood on the mercy seat, it's a sign that the sacrifice was accepted and the people could count on a good future stretching before them. Jesus left the tomb alive, our new high priest, with the angels announcing he is not here. He's alive. And that mercy seat was gone forever. Now, this Jesus love here, this lay it down love, that we are called, that is symbolized here in the water and the blood, is a specific kind of love, and I need just to make sure you all understand this, because we're really very too easy in our use of that word love. So let me be specific about what lay it down love means. And when people think about kind of the highest standard of love, they think of the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Now that is surely an improvement over the silver rule, which is do unto others as they have done to you. That's called the lex talionis. And silver love is actually, an eye for an eye principle was actually a mediating, limiting injunction that moderated the escalating violence of the blood feud, the vendetta, where clans would defend the honor of other clans and scaled up violence. And that's called, I call it iron love, do unto others before they do to you. So you've got iron love, and then an improvement on that is silver love. An improvement on that is gold love, do unto others as you would have them do to you. But notice in gold love, we call it the golden rule, but in gold love, who does that put at the center of the universe? You. You're asking other people to do unto you. You're going to do unto others as you would have them do. No, so it's all about you. But there's another kind of love that even goes beyond gold love. And in your wallets, there's a better card than a gold card. It's called a platinum card. And the platinum rule is this: do unto others as they. This is platinum love. You love others as they would have you love them. But Jesus says, right here, John 15, a plague on all your houses. None of these is good enough. I call you to love others how? As I have loved you. And how's he loved us? Greater love has no one than this, than that you lay down. See, this is the lay it down love. He laid down his life. You did not kill me. I laid down my life. He just did not die of crucifixion. He died when he pierced his heart and blood and water came out. It meant basically that he had a myocardial infarction. He popped in the order, we'd say. He died of poetically, let me go poetically as the first Adam was, he died of a broken heart. Right? He was not killed. We did not crucify him. He laid down his life, his love. For God so loved the world so much that God's heart broke. The price of love will always be a broken heart. And God paid it on the cross through Jesus. The fountain, the living water, and the lifeblood of who we are. So we end with a lay it down love. The kind of love that every mother knows, who lays it down every day. A lay it down love. I memorized the scripture as part of an organization. It was age 5. I was enrolled in it. It's called Bible Memory Association. And we had to memorize Bible verses. Of course, all were in the King James. So I still cannot say Psalm 1 without reciting it in the original language of God, of course, King James. Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. Anybody remember this? But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. Now let's take that. In his law, and now we've got a new law, a Jesus command, a Jesus law, which is the law of love, but it's a specific kind of law, a lay it down love. What does it mean to meditate day and night? The word meditate in Hebrews means more than an intellectual or cognitive functioning and thinking. The word meditate in Hebrews literally requires physical action. You don't meditate with your mind, you meditate with your whole being. So translations involve, and it's not just physical action, but physical outspokenness, sounds too. So you got mutter, groan, growl, shout. In other words, to delight in God's law and to meditate, to delight in it, is not to just think about it, but to enact it. It's not just to think about a lay it down love. It's not just to meditate and cerebrate on a lay it down love. It's, what does it mean to actually lay it down? To lay it down daily, day and night, by growing a lay it down love, by growling a lay it down love, whatever expression you need to lay it down. Not an iron love, do unto others before they do to you. Not a silver love, do unto others as they do to you. Not a gold love, do unto others as you. Oh, aren't you the center of the universe? Not even a platinum love, do unto others as they love others as they would love you. No. A titanium love, a Jesus love. And no one has greater love in this than you're willing to what? Lay it down. What are you willing to lay down so that others can pick up? And can we thank our mothers this morning? Our Mother Eve, our mother in life, those who have mothered us over the years, our Mother Church, for all the sacrifices and all the lay it downs that have taken place so that we can be here today and pick up our love and love others in that lay it down love that Jesus calls us to, not as servants, but as friends and followers. Lay it down. Semiotics is the art of angling, of turning things askew, upside down, inside out, cattywampus, sunny side up, over easy, scrambled, hard-boiled. We hope you enjoyed today's journey, but always remember, it's more important you prepare the preacher than you prepare the sermon.